Yo, yo.
Good morning, Melina. What's up?
If you're
Welcome to
not
another
blurry,
episode of Dogging It.
welcome, man. How are you?
Good, man. It's early out here in the desert, but I needed to talk to you. Day one's in the books.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, no, it's we do what we got to do. We only do it a couple times a year, and this is an important one, man. It's the U.S. Open.
Hey, did I come in blurry this time?
Now you're looking good, man. For once in your life,
Nice.
you're looking good.
Okay.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
for the good
yeah,
guys.
yeah.
Hey, I'm already following all of your short videos out there, your content that you're putting out. It's awesome. So I have to ask you, how did you get the interview with Earl? And what did he say when you approached him?
No, so okay, listen. First of all, there's like proper channels you got to go through out here. Like it's not when I'm at a tournament, it's usually I'm just grabbing guys, and that's kind of how I've been used to doing things. And so I really try to make a conscious effort to like respect the proper channels within Matchroom, right? So I have like a POC that I go through, but they've been pretty balanced when it comes to like giving me free reign, along with me asking them at times, because a lot of these guys, Joey, we've talked to them before, right? We've had relationships with them over the years, so it's not like I'm introducing myself. And even though they may get a little annoyed that I'm still sweating them, but with Earl, it's different. So most guys, I'll just go up to him and ask him, and then ask Adam, of course. And by the way, Adam and Jake from Matchroom have been fantastic. But so anyway, I was like, "There's no. If I go up to Earl, he's for sure gonna snub me." So I said, "Adam, can you make it happen?" And they both kind of gave me a look like, "That's a good question." Like they weren't sure either. So so I said, "Listen, it's at least worth the swing." And yeah, it was pretty cool, man. I mean, Earl's a legend. As much as he's low hanging fruit at times for criticism, he's also low hanging fruit when it comes to like holding him on a pedestal because he's still one of the greatest players ever.
Yeah.
And will always be.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, he
Well,
was
the,
he was
the
a great
thing I love
sport.
about Earl, the thing I love about him is like you can't anticipate what he's going to talk about.
No,
So, like, he starts talking about the hurricane off the coast and how it's changing the conditions, and I'm like, really? That's kind of interesting.
it's so funny because one thing that I really try to make a conscious effort of is respect everybody's time, right? So like the
Yeah.
players are practicing and I'm sure they want to get in and get out. And so, and when I tell these guys that, hey, I want to talk to so-and-so, I'm like, look, I'm going to keep it real lean. And I really make an effort to try to keep it lean. But Earl goes on these tangents. And so I'm looking at like the clicker on the time on the video, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, fuck, we're at 3 minutes. Oh God, we're at 4 minutes. And but Earl's just going, and what are you gonna do, right? You're not gonna slow him
Yeah.
down. So
You're not going to
yeah,
stop Earl Strickland when he's on
negative,
a
negative.
talking
No,
point. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Well, hey, you're doing a great job, and it couldn't happen without the sponsors that helped you get out there. So thank you to those guys. They're up the top, right, Mike?
Yeah, so Ivan Lee with Aramith, Kevin Steyer with Integrity Cues, Alberto Trujillo with Fort Worth Billiards, Oscar and Desiree, Hard Times, Q Tech and Brett Garson, and then Jenny Lynn with How Tips, which actually I met Jenny yesterday. It was a very productive conversation, which was awesome. Kevin Steyer, he's actually here. So I'm going to do some stuff with him a little later on and go check out the cues that he's got and hang out at the Q Tech booth for a little bit. So it's going to be a great day, man. But yeah, we definitely couldn't do it without them for sure.
Yeah. So if you guys are um, interested in following the content as Mike gets it, make sure you're following Windows Open on Facebook because
Yeah.
when he's out there with his phone grabbing stuff, he can post it to Windows. Doesn't always have time to post it to Pool Player Podcast, Facebook, or YouTube. So make sure
Yeah.
you're following Windows Open on Facebook. So we got quite a few people in here already. Jeremy Jones is in the chat. Mike Pinozzo,
I
Crypto,
got to talk to
all
Jeremy
the other
yesterday, man.
friends. What's
I got to
that?
talk. I got to talk to Jeremy yesterday. It was, he's always full of insight, man. But one thing that I really wanted to get, his thoughts on was the Corey match, and that was really the like early talking point of yesterday's U.S. Open because
Yeah.
Joe, like in these tournaments, especially early on, you can have just chalk, man. You can have just matches where it can be a little lopsided. But then there's trap games too, like you have in any sports, right? But that
Yeah.
Corey match against Ko Ping Chung, first of all, I lost the bet because I took Eric Roberts over Corey.
Yes, you
Not
did.
only did I dog that one, but then Corey shocks the world and beats Little Ko.
Yes. And, you were pretty adamant that Eric was going to beat Corey. And I want to say that for one time in life, I called a pool match right. And I said, no, Corey was going to get it.
Yeah,
I, much like you, I was very surprised that he beats Little Co right after that, because when we saw him out in Washington, it just didn't seem like he was that into pool right now. But I told you going into the Eric Roberts match, big event, U.S. Open. Corey's going to get up for it, and he's going to try to play well. And sure enough, he did play well. He's into the third round of the winner's side.
it was so funny because I asked Adam from Matchroom. I said, "Listen, can I get Corey right?" And I was just coming back from that drama that happened with Oscar. I don't know if you heard about it, but I'll talk about it in a second. But I just came back in the venue and I said, "I want to get Corey." And Corey comes up and he says, "Yeah." So Corey was as surprised as anyone. He's like, "Yeah, man. I borrowed my friend's cue yesterday, and here I am, and I win the event." And I'm like, "Wait till I hit the live button, buddy. Wait till I hit the record button
That's so
to
Corey.
give you those gems." Yeah, for sure. So. But no, it was a big win, man. I mean, coming out of nowhere, him making a run in this event can really put the American like hierarchy on its head, man.
Yeah.
Upside down because for me, I don't think he's close to that cusp of being in consideration for Mosconi Cup. But you have a win over Eric Roberts, you have a win over Little Co, and if he can continue that,
Yeah.
I mean, man, you want to talk about just getting everyone sweating. And I can think of a few guys who, in particular, will be sweating on the American side.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when Corey was in top form, he would be in that 5, right? When he was in top form. And
Yeah.
so can he revisit that and turn in a great performance here? I'm telling you, if he gets to the final 8 or final 16 in this event, people are going to start talking, because we all remember when Corey was top dog. We remember when Corey was winning everything. So, and we always kind of think about it from that angle. Like, if one of those greats from US Pool could kind of channel that again and play to that top level ability that they used to play to, then they're a better pick for Mosconi in our minds, because we've seen them do it before and their experience. And so, you have the younger guys, the Lucases, the Shane Wolfers, but they've never been on that stage, so we don't know how they're going to perform.
Right.
So,
And I mean, you got to think about the last time we saw Corey at the Mosconi Cup, it was not pretty at all. It was
it
actually quite the opposite. So, but on the topic of Wolford and Lucas, those are two gentlemen who are looking to make runs and looking to continue to cement their spots, who are now on the one loss side at this year's U.S. Open.
yeah. Mike, I'm not going to put up the brackets, I don't think, because I think we can talk through them just as we go. But the event started with the defending champion FSR. There was questions about his health. He had just had, I think, kidney stones and had a surgery. But he comes out firing, wins 9-1 easy, wins 9-2. He's into the third round and played well. I don't know if you caught any of his matches.
Hey, can you post the bracket in the comments? Maybe you guys want to check it out in there.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, no, I gotta talk to Francisco, and I wanted to see where he was at, and he's always so upbeat. Like, if you just see the dude, you're not gonna think like anything was wrong with him a couple of weeks ago, right? He
Yeah.
still had his same disposition, his same spirit, and in a lot of aspects, he can play more free because he doesn't have the pressure of trying to make the team. I didn't get to watch a whole lot of the match because I was just kind of bouncing around, and it wasn't a match that kind of caught my eye, other than the fact that he's the defending champion. But he showed why he's a defending champion, at least by the scoreline, and then he continued that in the second round.
Well, maybe a match that did catch your eye was a second round match between Mickey Kraus and Gangflot, because Gangflot had been playing well. We have been talking about him, and Mickey wins that one hill to advance to round 3 to play FSR coming up tomorrow. So that's quite a win for Mickey there.
It's absolutely a big one for Mickey. I got a sweat before we went live yesterday morning. Me and Mike, I was sweating Yanni and Gangflop, because I wanted to see with the eyes. I want to see what this kid's
The
all
eye
about.
test?
The eye test, yeah. And the one thing that caught my eye in both matches, because I got to sweat the end of the Mickey and Gangflop one, was his pace of play. And it was long. And so that's not going to serve him well once you start getting into well, not even just on the Mosconi aspect, but when you think about getting the later stages of tournaments, on matchroom stages. So that's something that he's going to have to dial in. there was times when I was really impressed with the kid, but I expected that win out of Gangflot. Mickey showed some heart, and it was funny because it took like Gangflot, I want to say like 4 minutes to run like four balls, and then as soon as he missed, at Hill Hill, Mickey runs like the other five balls in like 30 seconds, just bang, 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 But yeah, it was. You can tell they both wanted it. Talk about young Europeans who want to just maybe build on momentum. I think that Gangflot's got more of momentum right now than Mickey. But if you're Mickey and you have a win like that, and if you can continue it, this is the beauty of what the World Nine Ball Tour rankings, lend itself to,
Right.
right? And anything can happen. You go deep in this event, you're on the radar, man.
Yep.
There's that kid Moritz, Joey. I saw Ralph Eckert there sweating a majority of that match with Jesse Engel yesterday. So it's like you can tell there's some guys who are, just
Okay,
keeping an eye on.
so I don't want to get off track from the U.S. Open, but I did hear something about this yesterday posted where somebody said that they don't believe Jason Shaw would get picked for Mosconi this year, which to me sounds crazy because he's the heart and soul of that team. But could you see a scenario where like a Moritz gets picked over a Jason Shaw?
Yeah.
Get out of here, Carl. Promoting his thing on ours.
Yeah. Look, what Moritz has done in the last 2 months is great. Or actually, in the last month, what Moritz has done in the last month has been great. Everybody's taken notice. But what Jason's done over the last 5 years is different. When you have a resume, like if you're going to take somebody's spot, you got to do just that, Joey. You got to take it, right?
Right.
Because Jason has earned that spot to kind of be maybe a little grandfathered into it, even though maybe he may not be at his top form versus years before. And it's just based on that like 1A kind of scale, right?
Yeah.
But if you're Moritz, you're absolutely on notice with everyone, but you still got some work to do. And kudos to Jesse Engel, for putting up a hell of a fight, man. When I saw that matchup, and I didn't even look at it, looking through the brackets, but when I see on the TV table, I said, man, this is something that this can be a really tough matchup because I saw Jesse play at the Derby, and it's funny because when I got here the other night, it was him and what's his name from Minnesota, the trainer. Anyway, it was two guys waiting to check in, and I was like,
Demetrius?
Demetrius, yeah, and it was Jesse and Demetrius, and I said, oh, you're just gonna show up and make the final weight again, right? Just like Derby. And he just kind of laughed, That's just what he does, man. He plays
He's
strong, man.
incredible talent. Incredible talent. I don't think he plays a whole lot of pool either, which is kind of sick. Going down the bracket, so we talked about that first group before. Yeah.
Hold on a second, Joe. I wanna talk about this guy in the chat here for a second and get your thoughts on it. What do you think about Mike's comment here?
I agree with Mike. I mean, I really think that so you made a good point, right? You have to take the spot. I tell my kids that all the time. If they want to play on a better soccer team, they have to be considerably better than the person they're replacing, because then parents get involved. They're upset. This happens. There's a lot of turmoil, right? If you're going to pluck Jason off that team and put somebody else on that team, you're exposing yourself to a lot of criticism if that player doesn't perform, especially a rookie. And like, it has to be like a FSR type of year where you say, okay, this is why this kid needs to replace Jason. And if it is an FSR type of year, he's going to make it on points anyway. So it doesn't really matter. So I don't think it's quite at that point where we're going to take Jason off the team or, replace him with Moritz. But I do think it's kind of cool that Ralph was sitting there sweating Moritz.
It was, and there was a lot of guys that were like that. You can see a lot of European players going and speaking to him all day yesterday, and I'm sure he's got a lot, going through his mind. A lot of players he wants to keep an eye on, as well as Jeremy. But there's just a difference between making a run or going deep in a pool room versus making a run and going deep at a matchroom major tournament.
And look, Jason Shaw in December is insane. Like, he plays amazing. He's into it's the perfect environment for him. He could sometimes go into that event not playing great and then play great there. It's just where he thrives. So
you can't argue with the results, man.
Yeah. So
And what?
let's go down through the bracket. We talked about that first group of four. The second group of four plays this morning. Ralph Suke, Earl Strickland's playing. They're not playing each other, by the way. Raymond
Not yet.
Linares, friend of the show. And then the intriguing matchup today at 10 a.m. Eastern Time is Wukong Lin and Cash Keaton.
I got to talk with Wu Kun Lin a little bit. We all know what kind of monster that he is, and I got to speak with Cash, and he seems very loose and comfortable. And it's kind of akin to not when it comes to like Moscone stuff, but just like a guy who's been there and is a killer through and through, versus a kid who like everyone projects highly on in Cash, and so I think people have high hopes for what that kid's ceiling is,
Yeah.
but Wu Kun Lin is a monster. Wu Kun Lin is not one to take lightly. This is as good of a first round match. And to be honest with you, I wanted to make sure we went live by 9 o'clock because my ass is going to be over there sweating that Wu Kun Lin versus Cash Keaton matchup. So
Yeah. The next grouping, not a whole lot of surprises. We had Conrad Jishin win his first two matches. He's on to the third round. And then maybe a slight surprise with, well, I didn't think so, but Roland Garcia in the second round knocks off Yoshioka from Japan. I think you were pretty high on Yoshioka in that match. So Conrad versus Roland, that'll happen tomorrow morning. And then the next group, one thing I really like about the layout of this tournament, Mike, I just want to say, I want to interject, is that you have players who started their first round yesterday and played two matches. I think that's a good thing, right? Rather than just play through all the first round matches. I like that they got a couple matches in, and now the players that play today are going to play a couple matches, right?
and these are as a result of players' feedback to guys like Jeremy and Carl. These are what the players wanted. They wanted to be able to stay in rhythm and play, two matchups in a day to kind of have some flow with their game. And this listen, the same goes with the break, same goes with the table. Like these are all things that have been feedback from the players. This is what we want. I talked to a lot of players, as you guys saw yesterday. Everybody loves the conditions. They know it's tough, but they wanted to play tough. They don't want to play that one ball on the spot with the template 9 ball anymore. They want they want the best player to win, and they feel like these conditions, tape pocket sizes, break, racking, give themselves the best option to have the best players win.
So, Mike, being there in person and kind of peeping multiple tables and seeing different players play, what impact did this 4-inch pockets have? Right now, you get to see a good diversity of like the top players and then some amateurs. Were you seeing a lot of missed balls? Was the quality of
Yes.
play low?
It's relative, right? I mean, the better players still won. When you think about upsets, like, yeah, Corey beating Koping Chung is an upset, but Corey's also very decorated in his own right,
Yeah.
But like, yeah, everybody I talked to said it was tough, but they embraced it. They wanted it, and this is me talking with them, whether the camera was on or candid conversations I had with a lot of players when the camera was off, like, let me know what you really think, you know, don't tell me what you may think others may want you to say, because I want to know. And so, but everything was, this is what we want. This is how we want to play, because whether the moving gets into play, the safety battle, the tactical battle, they feel like if they're the better player in all those categories, it's going to give them the best shot to win, because they're not going to, it's so hard to luck in a ball under these conditions.
Yeah. This next grouping, Robbie Capito with two nice wins, 9-0, 9-2 to advance to the third round, beat the Vietnamese player Win Tuan in the second round. And then the other grouping, Wojciech ends up cruising, winning two matches, and he'll face Robbie Capito tomorrow. No real surprises there. The one with the big surprise, Ko Pin Chung wins his first match pretty easily. Corey Deuel over Eric Roberts, and then Corey wins 9-6. We've talked about that a few times. And Corey's going to face Omar Al Shaheen, who advanced past Donnie Mills in the second round,
Flip
9-6.
the coin there. Flip the coin there. We'll talk about tomorrow's matches, later tonight or tomorrow. But that's crazy, man. I mean, you would have never thought coming out of that area it was going to be those two. But anyway.
Yeah, the next grouping, probably another first round upset. Nathan Wallace over Ko Pin Han, the youngest Co. brother. He faced Carlo Beato in the second round. Beato took care of him 9-2. And then we had mentioned that the match between Dennis Grabe and the Vietnamese player Kien in the second round might be a barn burner. And sure enough, Dennis ends up winning 9-8, and he'll advance to play Carlo Beato in round 3. Should be a good matchup there tomorrow. Moving down further, we had Sanjin and advancing in the first round, and so did Vitali, and they played each other in the second round. And we mentioned that was kind of a pick 'em. We thought as Sanjin gets by 9-6, he's in round 3. And Tyler Steyer with 2 impressive wins, beats Frankie Hernandez, and then beats another Vietnamese player at the end. And he'll face Sanjin in round 3. I saw you took some pictures with Tyler. Did you get a chance to talk to him after that match?
No, but I've just been, being with Oscar and Tyler's, good friends, and Tyler's a good friend, and so I pick up on, like for me, it wasn't on the story side of it, wasn't a whole lot because I kind of expected that from Tyler. But what I did pick up on is just like he's just different, man. He's just different. He looks like
He's a professional now.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it's his body language just got like this subtle confidence. Like this is what I'm supposed to do, and I did it.
Yeah.
And that's the vibe I pick up from him, and he shows it, dude. Like that's what's crazy is that for me, it's been a transition from what you wanted to be like maybe years ago to like he's arriving and he's showing his form. I'm real impressed by Tyler, like in so many aspects, man. To be honest.
Yeah, Bader and Nick De Leon play in the next grouping, not each other yet. And then James Davey against Payne McBride. That should be a good first round matchup. And then the one that we had been talking about quite a bit, Sam Henderson versus Fedor Gorst. It'll be interesting to see Sam up against arguably one of the very top players in the world and how he's going to perform there.
I mean, I don't want to put it like what Jesse and Moritz did because maybe that might be putting a little too much pressure on the kid, Definitely a matchup that everybody wants to see. If you've watched American Pool over the last few months, you know who Sam Henderson is. He's not making a name for himself because he's a junior player. He's making a name for himself because the kid's playing, stout and Federer. It's a trap game for sure. He's supposed to win. I wouldn't be surprised if he won, obviously, but I mean, it can get dicey real quick, and then I think that all the pressure would then turn on to Federer, which would just make for a great matchup. I can't wait to see what happens there, man.
It would definitely be appealing. The next grouping that kicks off at 11:30 Eastern Time, Albin Ocean plays Petri Tamanin in the first round. Ray Schultz versus Curtis Evans. João Grillo from Portugal plays Juan Jose Rosa Mendez. And BJ Ussery starts his run against Harshit Kedia. BJ, obviously, this is a big event for him. Needs to do well here to be in consideration for the Mosconi Cup. So it'll be curious to see how he does.
I mean, especially given what happened yesterday, right? You had 2 Americans who fell to the one-loss side. I mean, at least 2 Americans. A lot. Listen, a lot of Americans went to the one-loss side, but like 2 Americans who were on the cusp in Wolford and Lucas, right? So like, if you're BJ, now you got opportunity. You win 2 today. Now you're in that spot to at least fight to get into the final 64, and now you're showing like, hey, I'm getting further, than these guys are in terms, and these little things are just going to be taken into consideration. And yeah, it's gonna be a good day for the Americans. Shout out to Nathan there because you told me about him being Copenhagen and it was funny, and I told him the story yesterday. So I was trying to look for him after he beats Copenhagen, but the bracket first showed that Baby Co won. Right, so I was like, never mind. Then it swapped and it said Nathan won. And
you're all about winners. If you're not a winner, you don't want to talk to him.
Listen. I've asked one time a guy who lost the match if he wanted to talk, and it was Chris Reinhold one time. And I said, "Hey, Chris, you got a minute?" And he's like, "I just lost." And I'm like, "All right, all right, my bad." So
that's like when Conor McGregor breaks his leg at his fight, and Joe Rogan's interviewing him while he's on the ground
on the floor.
Yeah,
no, it's it can get a little awkward, and I try to like respect people's times, but yeah, no, Nathan played great. His body language was great. I'm a fan of that guy. Like, he's just a positive dude, man.
Well, you mentioned a couple Mosconi hopefuls from the U.S. going to the losers bracket. One U.S. player that didn't go to the losers bracket was Chris Reinhold. He comes up with a big hill win against Mika Immonen in round 2 to advance to round 3. I imagine there was some chatter about that at the event, Mike.
Yeah, I got to see a little bit. So in one table it was Chris and Mika, and then the table behind them was Daniel Maciel and Jeff DeLuna, and Jeff was on Maciel like I think 8-5 or something, and they were in a safety match. So I'm doing like this number, and this, and I'm trying to like getting a good shot here, and someone's kicking there. You might have something exciting happen. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, Mika's playing great pool right now. I spoke with him with a little bit yesterday. He just it blows my mind how after all these years he can still be such a strong player.
Yeah,
He did
it's
mention
pretty
that.
remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that his break was a bit of a liability compared to others, but it's relative. But when it comes to run out, I mean, the guy's in it with anyone. So I got to see maybe like the last 2 games of Chris and Mika. I mean, Chris came clutch when he needed to, but yeah, I mean, it's a big win for him for sure. He's got to continue it though.
Yeah, on the bottom part of that grouping, you had Yuma Dorner, a young German player.
God, I
Uh,
wanted to call that one.
yeah, faced off against Thorsten Holman in round 2. Thorsten gets that one, so Thorsten advances to play Chris tomorrow. Should be a good match there. Moving on down, Fortunski wins his first 2 matches. He's on to round 3, and no real surprises here. He's going to face Imran Majid in round 3. Besar wins his opening match, the Albanian player, and goes on to play Sullivan Clark in round 2, which we were both saying we love Sullivan Clark, great young player, but not quite making huge waves yet. Well, it turns out he wins that match against Besar, makes it into round 3, and he'll play Ko Pin Yi. No surprise there. Ko Pin Yi wins his first 2 matches 9-3, 9-0. So that'll be an intriguing matchup there with Sullivan Clark and Ko Pin Yi. Sullivan's from New Zealand, I believe. So
Yeah.
that should
Or
be
Australia, something like that. Yeah, somewhere around there.
I want to say New Zealand. And then you can't tell by the flags because the flags are so close.
So similar.
No offense to our New Zealand, our Kiwi, and our Australian followers, but I have such a hard time with those 2 flags. Why do you make them so similar?
Oh, man.
Matchups for today: Sky Woodward takes the table at 11:30 Eastern Time. We mentioned earlier Demetrius Gelatis will also be playing in that grouping. Georgi Georgiev from Bulgaria opens up today against Nick Taraka, and Alex Pagulayan starts his U.S. Open run today as well at 11:30. 10 a.m. matches, which would be coming up, Mike, pretty soon, a couple hours. Billy Thorpe kicks off.
30 minutes, buddy. 30 minutes matches start.
Okay, Nataberg from Estonia, Sharek Syed, and Naoki Oi will be playing Derek Dea starting at 10 a.m. Next grouping, Jonas.
This is the one. You're all over the place, Joe. You're talking about yesterday and today. Listen, this is one of the ones that you want to see in round 2 from today. Levan and Gomez. They're supposed to win their first round matchups. This is the one you're going to want to see in that second round if they both win early on. It's going to be a great match.
I'm just going right down the brackets. Sorry. But that's the thing. As you go down the brackets, there's a grouping or 2 that played yesterday and played 2 rounds, and then there's a grouping that hasn't played. So that's why I'm just going right through them. But we'll also see a nice, interesting first round match with Kwok and Joey Tate this morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
I learned it's Huang. That's his first name is Huang.
Huang.
Yeah.
Wait, it's so fun to say Kwok. It's like guac.
Yeah, it is.
It's like guacamole. Okay, Huang. Okay. We also have a couple Americans kicking off, which could make an interesting second round matchup today if they both win, which is Hunter Lombardo and Jeremy Sassi. Sassi.
I would say.
And then Blaine Barkas will be playing at 11:30 a.m. against Gary Serrano, and Jason Shaw taking on Rob Hart at 11:30. Jason Shaw will start his U.S. Open run. 2 matches that occurred yesterday as you go down through the bracket. No surprise, Joshua Filler wins his first 2 matches, and he advances to round 3. The matchup that we had talked about in the first round between Lucas Werner and Scott Frost turns out to be not too competitive. Lucas takes care of business 9-3. I know there was some side betting on that match. A lot of people like Scott in that match, and Lucas really shows that he's a better rotation player at this point, I believe. But then turns around and gets upset in the second round. Maybe not upset. Frank Candela is a good player from Italy.
I got to see a little bit of it. He wasn't upset because Lucas was up pretty big on Frank. I want to say somewhere around like the 8-5 mark. So Frank
What happened?
showed. Uh, I don't remember because I was bouncing around a little bit, but I was just kind of like keeping an eye out. And when I saw Lucas up, I said, okay, the kid's handling his business. But then maybe like fast forward another 15 minutes later, all I hear is a shout, and I'm looking over and it's Frank, and I'm like, there's no way he came back and won. And sure enough, I looked at the scoreboard, and I mean, listen, I don't. Lucas needs good wins, but Frank plays tough. Frank is a very underrated player, and I knew it was going to be competitive, but I wasn't. The way it should have ended in like a 9-6 kind of range for Lucas just showed the heart that Frank had for me.
Yeah, and Lucas has to be pretty disappointed from that. He would have advanced to play Josh Filler. Instead, he's going to go to the one loss side now.
Frank
Next
says he
group.
was 8-4 down. There he is in the chat. He said he was 8-4 down.
Good job, Frank. Good win there. Thanks for tuning in. Shane Wolford wins 9-5, advances to round 2, where he plays To Leon Han and ends up losing 9-8 in a thriller.
That was an exciting matchup, man, because Shane was down, I want to say like 5-2. Then around 5-2, Han takes a break. And so fast forward to like 20 minutes later, then he comes back and takes the lead. And I think, what was it? He won Hill, right?
Yes.
But Wolford looked really good in that matchup. But man, we've seen the older Singaporean player just play like a grinder, man, kind of style of play, and it's just what he did to Wolford. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and with the younger players, right? Every game is important, right? And against veteran players, against this level of competition,
Yep.
one slip up can cost you the whole match. And so to finish off that group of 4 there, that group of 8 rather, Jesse Engel and Moritz faced off in round 2. Moritz Newhausen takes it down 9-8. So you had 2 Hill matches that lead into tomorrow's third round match between Han and Moritz Newhausen. So interesting results there. Beasterbosch, he wins 9-2 in the first round, but then he loses to Tom Stavely in the second round, 9-6. And then the next grouping, we have Chang Yu Lung, who advances with a Hill win over Anton Raga, which is pretty much a surprise, I would say.
If you saw the U.S. Open at Mandalay, Chang Yu Lung came with one of the best shots you've ever seen in your life on the TV table in crunch time. That guy, he really hasn't made a wave on the pro pool scene since then, really. But that was a big win against Anton, and kudos to Anton because he fought back very tough. It came down to one matchup where Chang Yu Lung, and he put him in some really difficult safes, grinded him down there at the end with just top level execution on the TV table. When Anton comes storming back, I mean, it was a great matchup. And Chang Yu Lung was just in the final out there in Connecticut as well. So can he go on a run? I mean, he's a Taiwanese player. He can.
Yeah, I got to watch some of that match out in Connecticut, and I found it so interesting because his style is so different in terms of his posture as he shoots. His head is like a good 12, 14 inches above his cue, which you see from a lot of the players nowadays. They're normally the cue's right under their chin, but he looks like he's almost not even ready to shoot, like he's kind of way upright, but deadly accurate. Great player there. The next grouping, we have Demetrius Lakatos, who ends up losing in round 2 to Khalid Al-Gabdi. So nice win for the youngster there. And then Alex Kazakis advances with 2 pretty convincing victories. So that'll be an interesting third round matchup. Your boy Max Lechner through to round 3, wins his first 2 matches, and he's going to face Babika in round 3. The Polish player there. So
strong veteran player. That's going to be a good matchup.
Yeah, Oscar Dominguez wins his first 2 matches, 9-4, 9-5. He's into round 3, and he's going to play Kang Lee, who also advanced second round matchup. Killer. Yeah, a little bit of an upset there. Second round match, beating Alexa 9-8.
That's my horse. I was sweating that. I was talking with Ralph Eckert for like a good 30 minutes last night, and that was a matchup that I'm kind of like just looking in the corner there. Kang Lee plays tough, man. Kang Lee, I call him the giant killer, man, because he upsets big names all the time, man. That guy, I don't know what it is about him. It's like you're supposed to lose, but he never loses, you know.
Yeah.
So
So
shout out to
I
him. He
didn't
played
even
well.
really know about him until I started seeing him on the Pro Billiards series,
Yeah,
the 10 ball series. And he just attended every one of those events, and he got in there and he grinded, and he'd
well,
make it to the
he was working with Ira Lee too, so it was
yeah,
like
he was with the lights and stuff. But the fact that he just kept hanging in there, and then he started winning matches against players that you're like, should he win that match? And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, maybe he's favored in that match. Who knows?
yeah.
So interesting there. Danny Hewitt knocks off Al Youssef in round two, 9-5 to advance to round three. And Miguel Silva, I guess from Portugal. Is that from Portugal? Knocks off Jose Alberto Delgado in round two, and he will play Danny Hewitt tomorrow. Back to some of today's matchups going down through the bracket, and we're getting down towards the bottom. Levan Corteza plays. Roberto Gomez also plays this morning. And Mario He will be playing in that grouping as well. And then above that, we have Spanish player Sergio Moreno playing a Vietnamese player, Phung Nam Phan. And then moving down, we have Victor Zelinsky, and he's competing in the first round against Barry Hetherington. Another Spanish player, Marcos Sanz Martin, playing John Francisco, friend of the show. And Tim DeRuyter against Kim Lockinson, which that should be a really good first round matchup. I think that one could go either way. And then Lo Hossam plays Ryan Borsa as well. Pius Labutis is playing today at 10 a.m. local time. Jesus Atencio is playing against Brent Worth at 10 a.m., younger player there. Kevin West kicks off today, and Changjian Lin as well at 10 a.m. And then the next group that kicks off at 11:30, John Morrow will be playing against the Vietnamese player Do Thay Quien, Alex Montpellier, Met Vergara, Jani Uski against Matt Krall. And then moving down to some results from yesterday. So yesterday we had the Taiwanese player Hasia advance to round three, beats Gerson 9-1 in round two. That's a pretty big result right there.
That's
9
my
to 1.
horse, man. That's my horse. Strong Taiwanese player, and the great thing that you see with the Taiwanese players is that much like the Filipinos, they always show love to each other, man. Like if you go and watch their matchups, it don't matter if it's on TV table or outside table. If they're done with they're sweating, they're their guy, man. So yeah, strong, performed very well. And I was looking at, I was doing the because we had our fantasy draft. I was looking through Fargo, thing, right? And I noticed that Gerson had a higher Fargo rate by I think by like a good 20 points or something over Chen, but not. I mean that's strong, man, against Gerson.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's one of those cases where Fargo might not be a good predictor with those two. Maybe the Taiwanese player has not had as many matches entered into there. The next grouping we have, Melina, let me ask you this. What's going on with Jeremy Seaman? Just seems like his results lately have not been great, and he gets knocked off first round 9-7 by Billy Gallagher. Any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, listen, Jeremy really only
Working man,
plays.
just
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy really only plays predator events for the most part. So I mean, it's a different animal being out here. Um, but Jeremy, it's so. And I like Jeremy a lot. I think Jeremy's got an underrated game, like relative to Americans. I think kind of I think gamble some with Chris Reinhold too. Now that I think about it,
oh
but
really?
yeah, I mean, it could just be kind of like flip. I got a lot of respect for this game, but like you said, he's a working man, but he's a grinder.
David Alcades on to round three. He's going to play Hasia tomorrow. And then today, 10 a.m. matches that'll be kicking off. I really like this matchup here. Niels Fayen against Tyrell Blowers, the young player from Wyoming. If you guys haven't seen him play, he's a very talented young player. Will he be able to do some damage against Niels? Not quite sure. but let's see.
I
Post
told
up.
this guy wake up at 6 o'clock so we can go to the gym, and now he's barely hitting me up right now. He's
Oh
barely
gosh.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Koch, Daniel Guttenberg will be playing at 11:30 a.m. and Darren
I watch
Appleton.
out for Daniel Gutenberg. He's another Austrian that can make a run in this event. That guy plays good.
Well, he's headed for a second round matchup potentially against Darren Appleton, which should be interesting. Chris Melling kicks off at 11:30 a.m. Against Christian Dimitrov. Chris Alexander will be playing from the UK against Robert Weimer Jr. Tommy Tokov starts his U.S. Open run against John Hoff and Zolnacki and Jovan Bustamante. One of the toughest first round matchups I think we see on the charts.
Who
Who
does
do
he
you like
play?
in that one, Mike?
Who does Jovan play?
Zolnacki and Bustamante.
Give me Oliver, but you're right. It's a tough matchup. I'll take Oliver though. I'll take that kid. Just this is his. Listen, what we just talked about a minute ago with like Jovan and Kang. I'm sorry, with Jeremy Seaman and Kang Lee. That's what I'd akin what Jovan is to the Pro Beard Series. You know, he does great in those events, but matchroom 9 ball against a kid who plays very very well. And Oliver, I like Oliver in this matchup.
All right, we'll bet a piece of Talum chalk on it, okay? I'll take Jovan.
Fire.
All right, I like Pyro. Talum Pyro, okay? Uh, okay, in the other grouping, we have Maciel faced off against Jeff DeLuna in round two. Jeff DeLuna got that one 9-7. And then in the bottom part of that bracket, Aloysius Yap advances with 2 wins. So him and DeLuna will play tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. And then the final grouping of 8, we had Marco Tuscher advance. He beats Elliot Sanderson in round 2. He actually had a tough round 1 matchup against Sergio Rivas, so he's had two good wins there, and he will face the number 2 seed in the tournament, Shane Van Boning, who cruised 9-2, 9-0. So no real test there for Shane at this point. So they'll be facing off in round 3. So that's really the whole bracket, guys. We went through everybody who played yesterday as well as the players that are going to play today. Pretty exciting stuff. What are you most looking forward to today, Molina?
The morning matchups are going to be fired, man. We talked about Cash Keaton and Will Kun Lin, Federer, and Sam Henderson. Those are the 2 for me that I'm going to go check out here in about 15 minutes. But it's going to be all day because guys are going to be playing 2 rounds, whether you win or lose. So you're going to want to sweat the action. Matchroom Live, you can sweat it on DAZN. I think Matchroom Multisport on YouTube. If you're here in the States, if you're out of the States, you guys can check out matchroompool.com. And find out, how you can sweat it on there. But it's going to be great, man. Like, you can't take anything for granted, and nothing's going to be chalk. You can guarantee there's at least going to be, a handful of upsets today. But who's it going to be?
Yeah. So, Molina, a few people are asking about the incident with Oscar since you kind of previewed it.
It's crazy, man. So I was here just doing my thing. Oscar just finished his matchup, his second or his first round matchup, and then I get a message from Des, Oscar's wife, and she's like, "Hey, you might want to check on Oscar." And I'm like, "That's an interesting thing to say." And she followed that up with, "He didn't sound so good." And I'm like, "Okay, hold on." So I immediately call him, no answer. I call Collins, no answer. And I'm like, okay. So Oscar texts me back, I'm all right. I'm in security right now. Okay. I'm like, "Where are you?" He's like, "I'm downstairs." So I in Chingas, go downstairs and go try to find him. Walk the whole floor, couldn't find him. Some guy who was on dope or something, man, just went after him with a knife. And luckily, he didn't take a swing, but he was charging him. And yeah, it really could have gotten scary. And yeah, I don't know, man. I was worried about my friend. I'm glad they're all right, both my friends and Collins and Oscar. Um, thank God it wasn't worse, but man, like and it's not like I mean, Atlantic City kind of has a reputation, but this has been a nice place, like walking around here, it's at least inside the
Yeah,
casino,
normally in the casinos you're safe.
yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, they were surprised. Obviously they were rattled. Oscar had to play like an hour after, man, so, in a matchup that was tough against Babkin I think he's from Romania or
Romania.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and even whenever I was talking with him a little bit, like you can just tell he was just like he was shook, you know.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, thank God everything's all right. They're all right, and now there's more security downstairs, which is cool. But yeah, I mean, I guess you just never know. It's been, I'll tell you off the air another funny story. Whenever we first got in the elevator, but
Don't tease
again,
them. Don't tease these people.
I cannot say it on air. I cannot say
Hey,
it on
well, listen, guys, if you want to follow the action with Melina Mike, you have to be on Facebook, Windows Open. Go to Windows Open and make sure you follow. Even if you're not a big Facebook guy, that's where a lot of his short interviews, where he does with players as they're walking off, that's where they're going to be posted. Can't really get those to me and upload it to YouTube or anything. So if you're watching on YouTube, I really encourage you to go to Facebook and follow Windows Open so you get all of this information. So with that, Mike, what are the plans today? What are you going to do? What kind of stuff are you looking to talk to?
So Pinozzo's coming in. I'm sure we'll go live at some point today. I'm going to try to get Emily on today as well, which she was open to doing, which is great. And then just kind of float around, see who's making runs, who's making moves. I want to, check out the winners from the first round and talk with them and just kind of follow the tournament. So it's going to be a lot of matchups. It's going to be a long day. Yesterday, I didn't get out here till 9 p.m. And I expect the same today. So shout out to all of our sponsors up top, all of our monthly supporters down there at the bottom as well. And then shout out to Matchroom for giving me access, man. Like I said, they're really they're letting me do my thing, and I appreciate it. And I wouldn't be able to get and talk with everyone if it wasn't for them. So,
Well, we don't call you Matchroom Mike for nothing. You know?
oh man, did you see the photo? Did you see the photo when I showed her the shirt? It was pretty
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. So you got to get Carl Boys to play you a game of 10 ball for me. Okay.
Oh, well, hey, listen, I'll get Carl on here too. I'm sure I'll get Jeremy at some point and talk some more, maybe off record. But hey, listen, hit up the chat, send me a PM, let me know who you'd like to hear from, and I'll try to get them on.
Awesome. Well, thanks for all the coverage, Mike. Keep it up, and we'll be coming back to you guys soon. Take
Later,
care.
guys.